Welcome to episode 44 of the Tough Draw Talks podcast. I'm your host, Brad Hughes. Appreciate you being along for the ride. Today, we are coming to you from Choctaw Casino and Resorts in Durant, Oklahoma during the Durant Pro Rodeo. They have provided us an amazing location to record these podcasts, and we couldn't be more grateful for their involvement. A world-class resort with 1,700 rooms, 7,400 slots, 100 table games, a new resort pool spanning 3 acres, and a huge entertainment venue that showcases some of the best musicians in the world. Choctaw is the place to be. Before we get started, though, as much as we appreciate the hospitality of Choctaw, we definitely want to give a big thank you to our presenting sponsor for this year, the Lane Frost brand. We appreciate everything Stetson and the Frost family has done for us here at Tough Draw in all our ventures, including this podcast. Be sure and visit lanefrost.com for some amazing hats, shirts, and everything Lane Frost, and to celebrate one of the greatest legacies rodeo and sports in general has ever known. Make sure and use our discount code TDT15 to save on your next order. We have our first team roper guest on deck right now, Coleman Proctor. He is a 7-time NFR qualifier, podcast host of the Toter Tales, and late college bloomer getting his degree at the young age of 37. And we definitely feel like we're in store for a fun ride here. Coleman, how's it going today, man?
Man, it's great to be here. A little bit wet outside. I'm not going to lie, when I pulled in, I was excited because I'm a guy, I'll valet it. That's just me. That's what I'll do. You know what I mean? I'll walk in, pitch the keys. And I think the trick is I grew up in Oklahoma and around all these casinos. And so my trick is you always leave the valet tip money before you walk in. Like leave it in the console. So when you get back and you're flat broke, you still got something to tip them, right? So I pull in, the sign says valet closed. And I'm like, what? And of course, my wife's over there. She's like, I got to pee. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just drop you off. And then, there's 9 valet guys. Yeah. So I was like, hey, what's up, fellas? I was like, we going to valet this baby or what? They're like, oh, no. Valet's closed because of the lightning. Oh, and I thought, I don't know how that works as a business model. I get safety, but by the same token, don't you want the customers in there safely?
I know,
like,
right?
what are you paying the valet guy? Like, what's he making probably? You know what I mean? Like $10 an hour plus tips, Yep. Somebody's going to walk in here and spend some money. I just thought, I got to thinking about that. That's how my mind works. Yeah. And that's what you get when you hang out with me. No, there's no telling where it's going to go.
This is going to be fun. So typically we start with icebreakers, and usually it's to like bust people's nerves, but I don't think we have this problem. But we're going to go ahead and do some just because we're trying to do them like Choctaw themed. Are you ready?
I love that. Yeah, I'm Cherokee, so bear with me if I don't know much of the... Man, I've been playing in a golf tournament today where my wife is my teammate. Oh, man. And it's just me and her against the field. You know what I'm saying?
How did that work?
I mean... My nerves are busted. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know where we're going to go that's going to make it worse.
But. Yeah. You're here at the casino. You walk up to the bar. What's your drink order?
Well, I think that's determined on 2 things. One, pregame. Like, I'm up at the rodeo tonight, so obviously, I won't be indulging in any alcoholic beverages because what I've learned about me is if I start early, then that will just absolutely start just a sequence of events a small army couldn't stop. You know what I mean? But I know right now I'd be doing a Topo Chico with lime. Definitely.
There you go. All right. What about superstitions or pre-event type rituals? You got any?
I think sometimes like if I wear a hat and I haven't won something or I've missed, like I'll throw that bad boy on the bed. You know what I'm saying? Because I think the bed's like a hat luck changer. Does that make sense?
Can be a ruiner or a positive, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't really. I like routines just because I like. I don't know. There's so many variables in our game, and then I like being prepared and I like routines. But sometimes if I haven't been winning, I'll throw a 50 in my pocket. Sometimes if I have been winning and I get a 50, I might leave it back at the treasure. Sometimes I don't rope with my wallet in my pocket. Yeah. That's more on the days that I'm not been following my fasting ritual and it's just ain't enough room. You know what I'm saying? We don't have, I got to leave the wallet behind. So and now you can pay with everything with your phone. So it works out.
There you go. I think I know the answer to this, but are you the all in or cautious player?
Oh, that's, it's funny because I don't even hardly gamble much anymore because I try not to drink that much anymore. And I think if you are going to gamble, they kind of go together. You know what I'm saying? So like if I'm going to have fun and I'm going to cut loose and I'm going to have a few cocktails, I'm pretty loose with it.
Yeah.
And I'm also not very good. So I think that goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because now, like, I think when you're on a sober mind and you're like $800, I could buy my kids something pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? But when you were 19, 20, 23, 25, like, you didn't have kids, so you didn't have those thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm cautious when I'm sober, I guess I'd say, which is most of the time.
But you're all in if you're not.
Yeah, I'm pretty out there. I think a lot of people know me. They know that's very true.
Yeah. Choctaw actually just recently renovated their movie theaters, several of them. And if you were going to go sit in one of those movie theaters with like a big bucket of popcorn and you could pick any movie of all time.
All time?
Yeah, what you throwing up on the screen.
Man, I'm a movie guy, so that's a tough one. You know what I'm saying? Like, my wife and I, we used to stop and we would watch like 3 or 4 movies in a row. You know what I mean? Yeah. We'd get in there, get the refillable large pop. You know what I'm saying? You get the deal going. But it's so funny you say that, because we literally, on the way up here, I stopped by the movie theater just to see if the new Burt Kreischer movie was out, because he made a movie about his joke about, about being in the mob in Russia, this and that. So anyways, been wanting to see that one, but man, a good movie experience. I like a comedy, but you're also going to want to maybe shed a tear or two. I don't know. I think I would do like Lonesome Dove, because have you seen how nice these movie theaters are? And I would want to be in there for a while.
Long time, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this one's always kind of a cool question to dive off into the rest of the podcast, but what's the best compliment you've ever received?
That somebody wanted their kid to be like me. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you can be a good role model for somebody, that's the best compliment you can have. I think at the end of the day, when it's all done and written, you're going to worry more about your character than you are your performances.
Yeah.
And so anytime somebody compliments that, or, that's what I lean on. I think that's the coolest thing in the world. What biggest compliment you can get is to, somebody to aspire their kid to follow in your tracks. So
heck yeah, man. That's a great one. I appreciate you jumping in on those. Again, that's usually to like loosen people up, but I can tell this isn't going to be a problem.
Yeah, I stay pretty loose.
How did you get into rodeo? Did you grow up in the sport?
I grew up in it. My dad roped, my mom roped. That's kind of back before, a lot of ladies roped. And I just grew up in it, loved everything about it. It's funny because people always ask, like, what would you do if you didn't rodeo?
Yeah.
And I love to play golf. I love, there's a lot of things that I love doing.
Yeah.
But I've never had a bad round of golf and went and bought a bucket of balls and practiced for the next 6 hours. You know what I'm saying? I've pulled in the middle of the night and been in a funk where I wasn't catching as much as I need to.
Yeah.
And I've kicked the lights on and went to practicing. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a passion with rodeo, and I think it's just, it's in our roots. It's just how we were raised, and we're here in the Midwest, and there are so many great talents in Oklahoma. I'm a very proud Okie, and there are so many talents that I got to see growing up. That have been born and raised right here in Oklahoma, and so it's been fun to watch. And so it gives you a big sense of pride of like, man, you're from Oklahoma, you're supposed to be a cowboy, and you're supposed to be able to work hard and rise to the top.
Well, very cool. Yeah. So I grew up in West Texas. I grew up over in Lubbock, and my grandpa had a ranch out on the Cap Rock there in Fluvanna, right between Post and Snyder and all that.
A lot of wind.
Yep. A lot of wind.
Not a lot of trees, but a lot of wind.
Yeah. So my uncle and, several of my family, they team roped and stuff. I never got into it. You are actually our first team roper on the podcast.
And I think, that's maybe one of my biggest accomplishments so far.
You know what I'm saying? First one on my podcast, yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love being the first team roper anywhere, ever. Yeah. It's awesome. Well, but I did tell you in our pregame, I do share an injury with Dusty Tuckness, and it's something we both get from our profession. His was trying to save a guy who was hung up to a bull. Mine was stepping off my horse in the steer roping, but it's the same, and it's a funny story because I tell people that all the time. Like, basically the guys that help us around the ranch, John Wayne and Asa, I talk about them a lot, but I did. I sprung my pinky. Like, it went the wrong direction. Like, it went completely to the right when everything was going completely to the left. And believe me, I'm 240 athletic, so we had a lot going the opposite direction of my pinky. And you wouldn't think that's that big of a deal, right? Yeah. But and I told my wife, I was like, wow. I said, that hurt. I said, I don't know what the heck I did. And that night I was trying to take the cushions off my toter, right, to make my bed. And I hung that thing. I was talking to her on the phone, about peed my pants right off the bat. Screamed. She thought I was getting murdered, right? And I'm like, this hurts. I was like, and it hurts so bad that I can't, it's like getting racked repeatedly for 10 minutes. And then it's like, as soon as the 10 minutes is over, it's done. Right. And we were at Fort Worth, And my little girls are with me, and my wife's with me. And I'd actually done a deal with Justin Boots, and I had to be in the training room afterwards. And I got a good friend, Evan Allard, who's a now aspiring steer roper as well. And him and Dusty, we're all walking out kind of the same time. And my little girl has a hold of my, she got a hold of my finger on each side, like one, and she kind of shoots to take off and grabs my finger and takes it that way. Almost takes me to my knees. And Dusty's like, "Oh man, what's wrong with your pinky?" So I'm like, "Man, you won't believe it." I said, "It's just silly, I know." He goes, "I had the same thing happen." He said, "It happens a lot when we hang him in the rope when we're trying to get somebody hung up." And I'm like, "Well, mine was a little different, but
slightly different, but a little less heroic,
equally as important." Okay. You know what I mean? And he goes, "Man, that is the most painful thing." And I'm thinking, you broke your leg last year at the finals. You know what I mean? Like, all right, but I see what you're going with this, Dusty, and thank you for talking about this in front of my wife and explaining to her that I'm not a little kid. Like I'm not whining for no reason. But it was bad. Then I got to San Antonio, and the bad thing is I hit my knuckles. Like, when I rope. When I'm on my horse going fast, like things are kind of tight between me and the steer, and my knuckles will roll across the rope. And I never realized that until I did it at San Antonio about 3 times, and it would push it the wrong way, and my whole hand would open up, and I would just lose my grip, and it would make me start shaking. I'd get I'm telling you, nauseous. Like it was bad. Finally, now I just tape them together so that at least if I hit it doesn't go the wrong direction. But
it stays the right way.
So Dusty and I, we brave the world, one pinky at a time.
All right, so having the responsibility of being our first team roper, with this cluster of podcasts, we had Tilden on. He was the first bareback rider, so he got to give the 101 breakdown of bareback riding. I need you to give it for team roping. I know you're a header.
Absolutely. So I do. I head. People compare us to the quarterback of the team because we're the ones that make the play. And honestly, I grew up healing. Love to heal. Healing is a fun responsibility, but there's only so much that you can control. Like it's just when the ball's thrown to you, you have to catch it, right? I know there's a lot that goes with that. I'm not taking anything away because great healers make great headers. And ultimately, it's a big chemistry, how your team works. But headers, you determine a lot based off of the starts you get. We have to deal with the barrier. So when I nod, I have to give the steer an allotted amount of steps before I can take off. And generally speaking, our run is won or lost in how good of a start that I can get. Makes sense. So that's where a lot of it comes down to. You're either fixing to win first, maybe place, or look at your partner and say, "Man, I swear to God, next time it's going to work out in our favor."
I got you next time.
So then let's say you've gotten the good start, things are rolling. Obviously, then you have to catch. And a lot of it, we have to have great horses, but that's kind of on both sides of the ball. So after we've caught, then it's our job to keep the rhythm of the turn and set it up for our partner so that he has a good, clean look at it. Because we can sure make his job a heck of a lot easier or a heck of a lot harder. Yeah. And then once he's caught, then, he just ropes and he just dallies. And then we got to turn around actually and face and look at him. And there's always an opportunity to lose a lot of time when you're heading, both at the start, how long it takes you to catch him, and then getting finished. And ultimately, we can also cost our partner losing a leg. And I think the cool aspect of team roping, I think it's like any team sport, in high school and college and stuff. I love watching team sports, the way people interact. You see a team that works hard and they try to be perfect in every aspect of the game, And I think that's what's fun about team roping is you find a guy that is just as dedicated to it as you are. He's gone out and he's got the best horses like you've done. You've gone out and got the best horses. And then you grind together to develop your run and to make it second nature. And then you start learning to communicate through a run that might only take 3 to 4 seconds. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool thing to be a part of. And I love being a header. And I switched over from healing because really the ceiling on healing is... it's a lot of people can attain it, you know what I mean? And there's just a lot more variables that a header can control. Yeah. And honestly, my best friend in the world, Jake Long, he was a healer. I was a healer. And ultimately we just wanted to rope together and he wouldn't head. So I tried it. But now, I love it. I love having control of all those variables.
So you've been to the NFR 7 times. So have you made it as a healer?
No, sir.
Just a header?
I've only, the only time I've really ever rodeoed, I've just been heading.
Okay.
I took off. Growing up over here in this part of the world, we did a lot of amateur rodeo, and you'd go to the PRCA circuit rodeos. A big trip for you was getting to go to San Antonio or San Angelo in the winter. Maybe you'd slide out to Cheyenne in the summer. Yeah. But that was kind of it. You know what I mean? You just circuit rodeoed. And the partner I grew up with, he took me to every roping rodeo across the country from the time I was probably 14 maybe. He was just never in a situation where he was going to be able to take off and be able to try it to make the NFR. I mean, and you got to understand what a pipe dream that is for some broke kid growing up in Miami, Oklahoma.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something we get to do. And so Jake and I, though, we were just two broke kids and was just like, well, why not? I mean, what else do we have to lose? Like,
together.
and I just happened to get so fortunate. A good friend of mine allowed me the opportunity to own a great horse. Jimmy Lawrence hooked me up with a great head horse, and we took off 2007 and just barely missed the finals that year. And like when we took off, we were trying to just not go broke, right? Yeah. Like we're just like, let's win enough money to get our diesel paid. And because back then you'd get paid on a Saturday and your fees are due on Tuesday, so you could work this deal a little bit, and anyway, so we were just trying not to go broke, and I thought, wow, that next year it'll definitely happen, and then it didn't for the next 7 years. So it was trying, but I've only ever tried it heading. Like I've never really took off and tried to heel. Very cool.
So you just talked about the horse and how important and big that was, and I know that, and we'll get to this a little bit, but one of the opportunities we had to get to know you a little bit was actually talking to you about your horse and the importance of your horse. Can you tell our audience, because again, predominantly for the most part, I think we have mostly a bull riding audience, but we're all about Western culture in general. So how important is a horse, especially to a timed event person?
Oh, they're everything. I mean, at this level, everybody ropes good. Every header ropes good. They all know how to score. Every heeler ropes good. They know how to rope 2 feet. And it's like, man, at this point, what separates the winners from the losers is how good a horse they're riding and how good that horse fits them. And I think that's a tough one, I'm sure, and I don't know because I never did bull ride. I did aspire to when I was a kid, like I really wanted to, but I flunked out early. I mean, like calf riding, second time, slammed on the ground, done. You know what I mean? I was like, this is not for me. But I think I'd rather chase them. And I think my dad actually rode bulls, and somebody told me this story. My dad, he rode bulls and he roped. And because like back in the day, everybody rode bulls. Like if you were a cowboy, you rode bulls. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this guy walked up to me and said, Keith, I'm going to tell you something. He said, I'd take that bull rope and I would cut that up and I would trade it for a head rope. And so I just kind of stuck to the family motto, I think. But,
cut the bull rope
I think that, in any event in rodeo, the livestock's where it's at. And I think that's a big misconception for a lot of people is that, if you're a timed event guy or if you're a rough stock guy, you're depending on this animal to make your living, right? And they're born to do their job. And we respect those animals so much. Like the steer I'm going to compete on tonight, obviously my horses get pampered a lot more than I do. You know what I mean? Like especially when you marry a barrel racer, like they get a spa treatment, massages and stuff weekly. But I think that's something that's a big misconception for people that don't grow up in the rodeo world is how important these animals are to us on both sides of the arena. Both on the timed event shoots and the bucking shoots. Yeah, is how important they are to us. And I think it's just my head horse. He's a difference maker for me. And I rode one tonight. I'm going to ride him. It'll be a faster setup. So I'm going to be on him. He's going to, kind of be like a little sports car. Last night I was in Strong City, Kansas, and I rode one that, is more like a luxury vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Like they all kind of fit their own little tracks and their spots. And I think it'd be, the same as if I showed up and you wouldn't really want to draw Bodacious at Durant, trying to, make sense. Yeah. Like maybe tonight, we don't have to go 96. Like I don't want to be on Wolfman's Skull. That's how old my bull riding knowledge is. There you go. It's like I grew up watching right? Oh yeah. So like Wolfman, I loved watching him every time. And like nobody ever rode him hardly, but I mean when they did, it was awesome. And it was just fun to watch that little sucker buck. But anyways, like there's just times maybe we don't have to have all of that. Like maybe we could just have a nice little happy hopper tonight and, scratch, win some money. Maybe that's going to win first. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And then there's sometimes when, like JB Mooney used to be like, well, I'm going to pick the rankest one because you might as well be 95 if you're going to win it, right? Like
you're going to get
sometimes you're going to have to, have the toughest one. And so I think it's the same way with your horse. I mean, he makes all the difference in the world for you, a lot like the draw in any of the rough stock events.
For sure, man. That's awesome. You were talking about the kind of the advancements in the sport and different things. And I think it's unique because with team roping, you are a team. And as you probably are aware, there's the teams format in the PBR, and then there's, they had done the Global Cup before. What do you think about kind of the evolution of the sport in general of just rodeo as a whole?
I can't speak to how it was back in the day, right? Yeah. But I think one thing that's changed so much in rodeo in general is the coverage, right? Like before, you couldn't have listened to, Larry Mahan on a podcast, right? Talking about tricks of the trade or how to do this or that. And I think now, especially like you see guys are not scared to compare notes, right? There's gotten to be, I think, that amount of coverage out there where we can study each other a lot. Yeah. And then that opens people up to like picking their brain and like, hey man, how would you handle this situation? Or how would you do this? And, JB, he's one of my favorite guys to talk to. Like I saw him at Houston and we were visiting and he was talking about a bull rider that came up and was talking to him. And he's like, man, he had a different style. He had a Brazilian style bull rope, and he's like, but his style was set up, like we both learned from the same guy and we're not made for those bull ropes that are so stiff. We got to be able to get over the front and roll it forward. Yeah. And it's awesome because it gives me the opportunity to kind of nod my head and act like I understand what he's saying when I really don't. But I think that's the difference is there's a lot of, there's a lot more being able to visit with each other because you're able to study so much more. I mean, of course, technologies came a long ways, right? But I think the main thing is just people are able to study each other a lot more. And I think people aren't scared to give notes, and I think we all want, and something I love about it is that everybody loves, you want the level of competition to come up. You want things to get better. And I think that's an awesome aspect of the Western way of life.
Yeah, and I think everything you're saying is actually really on point because you talked about the difference between just, everybody can rope at this level, right? Everybody can ride bulls at this level. Everybody, it's all about kind of those little details, the nuances and the different things. One of the things that I think's been really cool about this is just kind of the way that this sport has adapted as far as these, like all these guys, all of y'all are athletes. Like you're all doing something, whether, because working with an animal and, and being competitive and different things like that, I think there's a lot of athleticism to it. And I think there's a lot of, there's just a lot of crossover and a lot of connection between all the, all the other major sports and all these things. So I think things like the teams or things like, the bigger championships and the coverage that's out there and different things, the bigger money, I think it's just cool because it's opening the door for people to recognize the sport that rodeo actually really is.
I think it's been cool too, the coverage of like how hard these people work at it, Like I know like on some of the team stuff, like I haven't been able to follow the PBR teams challenges as much, you know what I mean? But I think it was cool because there was a clip I caught where, a couple guys were breaking it down on how they would do this or how they would do that. And I love how it shows how much work goes into it because like, let's face it, man, we're from the Western world. We understand hard work, right? And we understand hard work with the possibility of not really making a profit. Most of us come off ranches, and I think we all know how that goes. When corn's high, the dollar's low, and you know what I mean? Cattle are just kind of mediocre. You know what I'm saying? And I think we all understand that our job is still out there. You still have to go do it. Just like tonight, it might be raining, but we're going to get rained on, not rained out, And there's also going to be a possibility that those cattle don't bring a great profit, or maybe this year was just a scratch even and we're going to try again next year. And I think rodeo has kind of been that way, you know what I mean, coming along here. I mean, you got opportunities to win a lot. You can also go really broke and you have to fight back and go hard. But I think it really brings to the front end of everybody's, everybody gets to see it now. It's just how hard, the American way of life, like the Cowboys can work and they understand hard work.
Yeah.
I loved Kobe Bryant one time. Who's the dude? Jason. He used to play at Duke. He's now an analyst. No, not Tatum. No, he was out of the game. Anyways, he was talking about Jay Williams.
Jay Redick.
I love it. Jay Williams. Talking about how he was going to have to guard Kobe. You know what I mean? And he goes to the gym early and he's going to practice and Kobe's in there bouncing the ball, like already practicing. So he suits up and he practices on his end. Kobe's practicing. He said, I go hard. He goes, I take my shoes off, watching. He goes, and Kobe stayed for another 30 minutes. So after the game, when he went 50 on me, he said, I asked him, I was like, man, I saw your workout already. He goes, yeah, I saw you come in the gym and I wanted you to know that no matter how hard you work, I was willing to go further and work harder. I was like, man, that's how Cowboys grow up. Yeah. That's what was instilled in us. We were kids, and let's face it, the world could use a lot more of that right now. You know what I mean?
Amen to that. Yep. Amen to that. So we talked about the coverage element of it. I want to give you a few minutes to talk a little bit about the Toter Tales.
Oh, you bet.
Tell people about your podcast and what you got going on. It's available everywhere podcasts are, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the Toter's been down, but we still, I've done some from the ranch, but it's funner whenever I'm in the Toter home because the whole point of that, I've had a buddy of mine, Tyler Boston. He owns a gunite business right down the road here in Waxahachie, Texas. And ERS Gunite, for all your gunite needs, check out ERS Gunite, the founding sponsor of the Toter Tales. There you go, Tyler, as a plug for you. But, the Toter Tales was mainly about bringing the behind the scenes. I think people love seeing an individual, right? And it all started, I was actually on the way home from a roping, and I just got some Dairy Queen. I was in Mineral Wells, Texas. And I kind of wanted to know, I was trying to make it home. There was a bad ice storm coming, and I was trying to figure out the route home. Yeah. And it's like, hey, I guess that's how I'll call this my Toter Tales. Does anybody have any advice for me on which way to go? And that's kind of how it started. And then I would make a clip, and it started out just some short videos on Facebook, and people love that. And I tell you what was crazy was how many people come up to me now and are like, man, my wife loves you, or like, oh, my kid's your biggest fan. And they have no idea that I really had steers, right? Yeah. Like I'm thinking, man, I kind of want my roping to be more predominant than it is than my talking, let's face it. Yeah. So then Tyler was on me. He's like, man, you got to have a podcast. And I hadn't really ever seen him or done him or, and with the opportunity that I have with the Purina pregame show at the National Finals, getting to hang out with them and Luke Branquino, and we interview all the contestants. And, the first year we did that deal, it was kind of like, you bring somebody on stage. What do you love about Purina? What do you love about Purina? And it was kind of always the same stuff. Well, we love to feed greatness. It's the best feed in the world. They give us every reason they love Purina, but they're a lot of the same reasons. So finally we kind of get into the, David Nelson's like, hey, let's go ahead and try to ask them, try to get their backstory a little bit, not make it like a commercial. So yeah. You start hitting on some things, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, how fast can you change your daughter's diaper? You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, people start loving that. Yeah. And that's kind of what the Toter Tales has been about. Just the opportunity that we're on the road. I'm away from my home probably 300 days out of the year. I'm in the Toter home most of the summer, and there's a lot of downtime that I'm able to get access to people that maybe some other people aren't. And so it was never really about any fame or fortune by any means, but I just think it was fun. And anytime I do one, it's big for me that I want some kid out there to see it and get inspired, right? Yeah. And I use kids as my dynamic because when I was a kid growing up, there was nothing like this, and we craved it. Spin to Win magazine came out one time with Jake Barnes' journal from the National Finals, and it had every day he wrote in his journal of what he had done, and they published that. I must have read it 17 times. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's a lot for me because obviously I graduated college at 37, but so that to me is in the Toter Tales. I always want to understand the struggle's real. You know what I mean? I'm one of the happiest guys in the world, but I still get upset. You know what I'm saying? I still have down moments. It still doesn't go perfect. You get on this stage where everybody thinks man, you're living the dream. Because I know, because I used to think that about other people. How could that guy ever have a bad day? Yeah. And I think it's just like in any business, just the bigger and better you get, the more stress that's involved. When we first went to the National Finals, it was me and my wife and whatever family wanted to come, didn't want to come. Now we go to the finals, it's me and my wife, Tiffany that helps us. We got her mom that comes in, my wife's mom, my mother-in-law comes out for 2 weeks and, on her dime comes out and buys a hotel room to help us out just with the kids. We got 2 kids that are with us the whole time. We've got, and so when all of a sudden in round 6, when you hit one in the back of the head and it goes on a backwards half head, you know what I mean? And then it flips off of that into the ground. Your pride falls with it too. And then in round 7, when I missed the barrier a little bit and I split the horns and it comes off and it hits the ground, then your heart hits the ground too. You know what I'm saying? There's so much more now than it used to be. And I just want kids to understand that happens to all of us. Yeah, okay, I still get nervous. You know what I mean? I still walk in the box and have to fight back the butterflies or I still, I'll walk in there and have that feeling oh, I might pass out. Things are kind of getting dark here. Woo, 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 when you can hear your heart beating in the back of your head. But this is how I deal with it. This is what I do. This is a trick that worked for me. And then I think anytime you can inspire somebody or just kind of any kind of way provoke some sort of emotion, that's what people can relate to. Because maybe somebody just needs cheered up today. Maybe they need to hear one little funny story that happened to me, about getting a middle seat between 2 of the biggest rugby players I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? I think it gives a person an opportunity to explore his perspective on life. You know what I mean? Because when I got settled in there, I'm not a little fella myself, and I was behind both their shoulders, and I thought, man, there's no way if this plane crashed right now, I would be the safest person in the world. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes I'm able to give a perspective through the Toter Tales that maybe it just brightens somebody's day, maybe it makes a difference for them, and maybe it provokes change in them. Who knows? You know what I mean? But you just want to inspire because you get a platform in life, and then you have to look back and say, okay, what are we going to do with that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You gave a little bit of a shameless plug there for your podcast, but I want to take a second to identify Ryan and Justin with Red Dirt Hat Co. because that's how we got a chance to meet you. We were doing some content for them and stuff. Talk a little bit about your relationship with the Red Dirt Hat Co. and those guys over there.
Cameron Holt, been a buddy of mine for a long time. Cameron Holt actually, and he works for both Ryan and Justin, and that's kind of how I got to meet him.
Yeah.
And Cameron actually drove for his cousins, the Horton brothers, maybe the most famous team roping brothers in all of Stigler, Oklahoma. And we went. He took me to my first college rodeo. Now, mind you, let me just set the scene here. I've been taken everywhere since I was about 14 by a very responsible individual named Justin Turner. He took care of everything, right? Like I was like a kid to him. Well, now I'm just kicked out with the big boys, and we're headed to Colby to the college rodeo, right? It's the first time I'm venturing out from underneath Papa Justin's wing. You know what I mean? He's like a big brother to me, never let anything bad happen. We pull into Colby, and I'll never forget, Cameron drove the whole way, and like he is just a funny guy. Cameron's one of my favorite people. We kind of have the same sense of humor, and we pull into Colby, and my horse unloads, and he's got a cut right under his tail. And I thought, oh my gosh, my horse is hurt. Oh goodness, Well, I'm trying to make a hand, but my rig back in them days was a 1996 red Suburban and a matching red 2-horse single axle trailer. And now the Hortons, they've got a generator in the back of the truck. It's plugged in, and I get in there and I'm trying to help. Like I'm unhooking the trailer. I'm doing this and that. And I pull the truck forward and I jerk the plug out of the generator. It's like, crap. Strike 2, you know what I mean? And so Destry Graham, we had just jerked the plug out. Kyle's unloaded the generator. Now he is fixing the plug, and Destry needed something. He's like, Coleman, jump in this pickup. Let's drive over here. Literally, leave the scene of this disaster I've caused. And we drive over and grab something for him, and I'm the one driving his pickup, and I go to back up and bam, run the driver's side door into like a little guard that's around the water hydrant, right? And wrecked the entire side of his truck. So as I'm pulling up in this wrecked truck and turn to the profile, Kyle Horton, I'll never forget the look on his face. Him and Cameron are sitting on the step fixing this plug, and they just look at me and their eyes just drop like, what is he doing now? They're like, hey, you get in the trailer and you don't go anywhere. Like, you're staying here tonight. You were staying in this trailer. We're locking you in. You need 5 minutes of just not tearing stuff up. So that's actually how I met Cameron. And, he was just a problem fixer. He's all the time. And so we've always joked, and I've seen him across the, different rodeos. He's been with, some other companies, and now he's kind of found his, I think, forever home with Red Dirt Hats. And I think the same way our personalities go together is the same way, like, Red Dirt Brands and myself go together. Yeah. And they've started making our hats now. We're going to start selling for the Toter Tales, and we got big plans and big ideas. And
that's cool.
It's fun to be a part of a company like that that's as down to earth as you are. They're not. They're a neat brand. I think Red Dirt is something that, Texans have their brand and Okies have their brand, right? But I think Red Dirt is something that brings everybody together, because it's when you think Red Dirt, you think of the music, you think of, a lot of the times what the dirt was in the arenas we've all been into, and it's just a cool feeling. It's something we all can relate to, and their gear is outstanding. They made all my caps for the golf tournament that I had the other day, and everybody loved them. They all talk about how comfortable they are, and it's awesome to have somebody that takes that much pride in their product to be on the team with you. You know what I mean? And then they have a lot of pride in you, and then in return you have a lot of pride in them. And so that's what makes a partnership work.
Definitely. I can see how your personality would really mesh with Ryan and Justin.
You bet. And then as I've gone along, I've gotten to meet, both Ryan and Justin, and I think that's just, I love a family type brand like that.
Yeah, definitely, man. So one thing that I'm curious about, just, you've talked a lot about your mindset and your mentality, that you're a happy guy and stuff like that. What mindset overall, being gone 300 days a year or whatever you might be, what type of mental fortitude and just the capacity to be able to do that? Like, how do you keep yourself happy, and how do you focus?
Oh man, I think that's a great question. I think ultimately that's the difference between the guys that make the national finals and the local legends you have in your hometown. I think we've all been around the people that, this guy would make it if he had X, Y, or Z, right? The money, the horse, the partner, or whatever. You put them in any order. Now, we've all had that guy. Yeah. And but at the end of the day, it's like it's a different beast what we do. Like when you leave and you take off for Denver, and you're not coming home until after the end of the season in September 30th, right? We bought our card with the one goal in mind of a world title. We know we're going to the national finals. Like, that's not even a question, right? Because you bought that card. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge thing that's changed that's what led me to my first national finals was the change in the way I looked at it, right?
Yeah.
Used to, I'd be like, well, I'm going to get my ACRA card just in case we don't make the national finals. We can go to their finals at the same time. I'll never forget the first time I told Jake, I was like, hey, Jake Long and I were roping together again in 2014. I said, hey, you want to buy our ACRA cards just in case? He goes, no, we have plans the first week of December, right? But like that's a different mentality. And like you have those guys that do really good in their circles, and then you have to realize you might be 2 time zones away from home, right? And you don't get to go home to your home practice pen tonight. You may not get to go to a practice pen for 3 weeks and have to fight this battle, whatever you got going. Maybe your horse isn't scoring. Maybe your loop's not headed where you're supposed to. And you don't get to go home to your home place and practice. You don't get to go sleep in your bed tonight. You don't get to have mom's cooking tonight. And that's a huge thing. I mean, there's a lot to be said for back home cooking is what Jake calls it. And I think there's a great perspective there. And it's a job, but it's also a pleasure. And I think one thing that's changed for me a lot this year is I was getting mad. I'm not going to lie to you. Like it was getting to a point where I was getting mad. I just think with the pressures of, now I've got 2 kids and I've got, the ranch, and it's just, we've got stuff going on all the time. And, 2 guys on payroll at the house that like the reason we have them is so I can be gone rodeo. And it's like, well, if I'm not winning when I'm rodeoing, then why do we, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just, and, I started getting mad. And the other day I was at Guyman, Oklahoma, and I stayed over with my buddy Mike Shannon. We got talking a little bit about it, and left there. And I went and saw my Uncle Galen that night. It was like it was like this big sweep of like I saw my Uncle Galen that night at the roping. It didn't do any good. And Mike and I just had a good visit the night before, and then my good buddy Justin Turner, I always talk to him when I need a little knowledge. And it was like those 3 guys that just finally meshed for me. I was like, man, I'm not gonna get mad. I'm done being mad. I'm be mad, I'll go home and get a job, right? Like I'll go home and wait tables before I get mad doing this anymore, because I think the last thing my wife wants to do is for me to pick the phone up and complain about missing a steer when she's having to work. She's worked all day. She comes home. She has 2 kids she has to put in bed at night, and I'm not there to help, right? The last thing she wants to hear is about, I missed this morning in slack, and then we went and played golf. Like that's the last thing she wants to hear. So I'm like, I told her, so I'm done complaining, because if I'm going to complain, I'll come home, right? Like I'll be happy and work a 9 to 5-er. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not a big deal for me. So that was a big eye-opening experience. And I think being able to handle the pressures in the arena is a big thing, but then the pressures that come outside the arena as well, and being able to realize this is a job and this is what we do for a living, but it's also a passion. And at one time you were just chomping at the bit for an opportunity to be in this position. Does that make sense? Like I was praying to be one of the best hitters in the world, right? And so now that we're here, like I'm not going to take it for granted. We're going to enjoy every minute of it, because I mean I'm getting older, and you never know when this train stops. And we were joking about it the other day. It's like you never know when this is going to be the best run of your life, right? Like you never know when this is going to be the best rodeo you've ever had. Yeah. You never know when that's going to happen, and you also never know when it's going to be the last one you ever have. So it's true. I think that's something that comes with a little age and wisdom. But I told Tiffany, the girl that helps me last year at the finals, it was round 10. And we always kind of like take 5 minutes and just break down whatever our steer we got, or I'll have just gotten done doing the pregame show, and we've come back, and now it's kind of time to kind of click it in and start getting ready to compete. And we kind of take 5 minutes because out there you're always on, always like going. You're what I mean. You've got to be Coleman Proctor, the professional team roper. You know what I'm saying? You can't be talking about fishing stories with your buddies or whatever. You know what I mean? You have a job to do. And so we take that 5 minutes and visit, and I said, what's funny, Tiff? Like right now, I cannot remember one time that I was so mad and thought the world was coming to an end all year. Like I can't pick out. And I know there were moments. Like I know there were times I went through spells and didn't catch or whatever they would have been. Yeah. I can't think of them right now. So it's like, man, if I can't think of it right now, like how small were those problems that I thought all year, right? Like the big molehills that I turned into mountains, like how small were they really? And I just think like looking back at the end of like when I'm done rodeoing, you look back and it's, you're in the golden years of your life, like this window that we have of where we actually got to enjoy it and have fun and be the best us we could be is going to be so small that you better enjoy it while it's here.
Definitely. What, speaking of kind of that future and the
I got deep in a hurry, didn't it? I didn't mean for it to get quite that deep. I apologize.
It got deep, but it actually, created a segue because...
Heck yeah. You're welcome.
You're welcome. So, thinking about the rest of your career and kind of you're moving forward for you, what are kind of those future plans, goals, different things? What are some of the things that are still left you want to achieve?
I want to enter the timed event. after I'm done rodeoing for a living. And people ask me all the time, because I head and I heel, I trip steers, I rope calves in high school or in college and stuff. And I tried bulldogging in high school. It almost ended my roping career. People don't know that. And they're always like, when are you going to enter the timed event? And I'm like, man, the cinch timed event championships happens right out here. You know, the Lazy E Arena. Yep, Cody Dozier this year was the first Okie to ever win it, you know, which is a big accomplishment of all the great champions we've had go through there. And it's kind of like the Iron Man of rodeo, right? Except you don't have to ride a bull or a bronc or anything. But anyways, so I've always wanted to enter it.
Yeah.
But it's just now looking at, you know, it doesn't make fiscal sense to enter it while you're trying to rodeo for a living. So I'm going to enter that when I'm done, depending on roping for a living, right? Yeah, cool. Is my career. So I always talk to, I said, when I'm about 42. And honestly, I got a good friend, Jess Tierney, that enters, and I'm his helper. So I'm his guy. So I was like, well, I guess when Jess retires, then I'll try to enter. But so I'm going to do that. And then one day, like, you'll never see me again, and I'll be waiting tables at Los Cocos Mexican Restaurant, the best Mexican food you'll get in all of Mays County. And I'll have a 1973 Chevelle. I'll have a set of golf clubs in the trunk, right? And I will have a tripping horse, and I'll heel it only at the rodeos that I can trip at. That makes sense, like that I can make work. Yeah. And I'll go rodeo, and we'll have fun. We'll play all the cool golf courses. Like, I'll enter Salinas just so I can go play Pebble Beach. May not even enter, like, I may not even compete at the rodeo. I might just give me an excuse to go out there, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then just like, you know what? I'm kind of having the round of my life. We'll just lope him at slack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we'll just wait on that. There'll be another one tomorrow. But that'll be my goal one day, I think.
That's cool. Right. That's cool. Well, man, I'd love to keep going, but we got some fan questions we got to dive in.
You bet. And I will do a lot of schools. I love doing school. I think that's important. Like, I do schools when I'm home now, a lot of private lessons. I like helping the next generation. Go ahead.
For sure.
Fire it off. Fan questions. Fan questions number one.
This is from Trey Holston.
Trey Holston.
Here we go.
I know that guy.
He said, thoughts on being an elite roper outside of the state of Texas? What keeps you in Oklahoma versus Texas?
Well, I tell you what's funny is everybody thinks my partner, he lives in Stephenville. Like, that's what they all do. They all go to Stephenville. But here's my thing, right? They all ride for their home states at the national finals. Like, Travis Graves is not riding for Texas. He rides for Oklahoma. Jake Long lives in Texas. He rides for Kansas. Yeah. Right? Okay. Logan Medlin lives in Texas, rides for New Mexico. Yeah. So I'm at least the guy that's true to my form, right? And I've always said, you know, I visit Texas. I live in Oklahoma. I'm a diehard Okie, 100%. Like, I was a kid growing up, and I couldn't imagine leaving the state, like, for any amount of time, unless it was to a rope and then come right back. Like, I didn't, like, what can be so much better than this? Yeah. You know what I mean? That's cool. And no, I love Oklahoma. We got not a big ranch. It's a big ranch to us. It's a big pain sometimes, but we got a ranch. We run about 250 mama cows, and between us and my mother-in-law, and we kind of got to take care of all that responsibilities. We joke about it a lot. Like, my wife, she'd like to go to Arizona one year once she retires and, you know, hang out there through the winter. And I love Montana. It's probably the prettiest place in all the world. Red Lodge, Montana is the prettiest place you can ever be on the 4th of July. Yeah. So there's cool places like that rodeo's afforded me the opportunity to travel to, but home will always be Oklahoma.
Very cool. Rowdy asks, are there any guests that you want to have on your podcast but haven't?
Man, yes. Okay, so the other day, it's a great one. I may even have to come up with a Toter Tales after dark. You know what I'm saying? Like, where
you tuck the kids in.
The kids in bed. It's time to get over their head. You know what I mean? I've already got I swear, one day I just need the job where you name stuff or you come up with slogans, right? Like, that's how my mind works. But anyways, I'm going to have Ken Bailey on there, and that might be anybody that's from Oklahoma knows what a legend that man is, and they also know how funny he is and the stories he has. You know what I'm saying? I think Joe Beaver would be fun to get on there talking about, like, the old days, like when he first got started. You know, he was big, I guess, and I didn't know this till just the other day, and I actually got to confirm it last night. So here's your little Joe Beaver insider coming to you live from the Tough Draw podcast. So had it not been for the IPRA fining him $200 and taking away his points, he may have never bought his PRCA card. Think about that. So in like 85 or 84, it was right there at the end of September. Yeah. The IPRA kicks him out because he had both cards or a permit in the PRCA. And it made him mad, and he just went on to the PRCA. Well, then he won Rookie of the Year and the World in the same year and becomes the legendary Joe Beaver, right? Yeah. Imagine if that never happened. Because that's what they were talking about back in the day, the IPRA. You could make a lot of money doing that, staying closer to home, not spending all of it. And then it wasn't the lure of it is now. And
for sure.
So that was a lot of fun. Yes, there are several guests I'd like to have, and some guys I'm going to have some guys that I grew up with. Austin Myers, PBR bull rider. He's turned into horse massage man. Like,
absolutely.
I used to pull his rope in the high school rodeos, and when he first started going out of the IRA rodeos. So I might have some cool ones come on there. I don't know. I'd kind of like to know who the people want to see.
Yeah.
I get hung up talking to steer ropers a lot because steer ropers are fun people to talk to, and we have a lot of time at those slacks.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Our last question comes from Sarah. And hey, this actually fits with what you just said about coming up with slogans and stuff.
Here we go.
It says, what's your one sentence mission statement for your life?
Man, that's a great one. In 4-H when I was a kid, the motto was to make the best better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it would either be something like to make like the mediocre more efficient, or to make the impossible obtainable.
There you go.
I think that would be the best one.
I think that's a little more positive.
Right? Both of them are positive. Depends how you look at it.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
If you're mediocre and you're all of a sudden more efficient, you've gained, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it'd be. To make the impossible attainable. I mean, just like tonight, I had a buddy, I was at Slack at Hugo the other day, and he to buy 2 new tires, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't have time to go, and like my tire shop's around the house. Like a buddy of mine, Bryce Segota, he used to live right over there by me. Now he's moved south. He has a tire shop. And I'm like, hey, bud. I was like, hey, you got a tire shop? I was like, find me these tires. He's like, you bet. He gets them to the barbecue trailer, Running S Tires. If you ever get a chance, Boswell, Oklahoma. Hooks me up, like calls me. He's like, hey, dude, found the 2 tires you need. I will have them at the barbecue trailer at Durant. He knows I love barbecue, right? Like, what customer service we're talking about? That's what I'm saying. Like, make the impossible obtainable. That would be the mission statement for my life.
Awesome. Well, like I said, starting out, I knew this was going to be a fun, wild ride. I don't think I've laughed this much on a podcast, so thank you for that.
You bet. No, it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think anytime you have an opportunity to get your voice out there in front of people, you know what I mean? It's a brave and a noble thing.
Yeah.
And I think anytime you give as much coverage to any side of the rodeo arena as you're doing, it's awesome for all of us. And so we appreciate you and all the hard work you're doing for sure. Man. And thanks for setting it up here at the Choctaw Casino, where I walked in and hit the money bags because I had a feeling. Turns out I took a Pepsi AC. That was just heartburn. But we might try them out again.
Well, thank you for all that, man. And thank you again so much for being here. And thank y'all for listening, and to the Lane Frost brand for sponsoring these podcasts for 2023. Without that support that Stetson gives, we couldn't do what we love doing here for y'all. Make sure and go to lanefrost.com for merch and all things Lane Frost, along with all of their social platforms. And remember to use the code TDT15 to save 15% on your orders. And, as Coleman just said, thank you again to Choctaw Casino and Resorts for hosting us. Coleman, what are your social media handles where people can follow along with you?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I know I got a fan page on Facebook and an Instagram, like at Proctor Coleman, I think it is. The Toter Tales has a podcast, has a TikTok.
Yep.
And then it has its own Facebook page. So if you check it out. Just there's not a whole lot of Toter Tales stuff out there. I get leery about shipping all of my handles out there because now I've started getting. Yeah. I don't know if I've passed like the X amount of followers that you get the weirdest like messages. You know what I mean? But I'm starting to get to that point. So, but check us out, Toter Tales. On Facebook and all that.
Awesome. And also follow along with us on social media at Tough Draw and at Tough Draw Talks for more episodes of our podcast as we continue to bring y'all closer to the rodeo community. Until next time, everyone, enjoy the ride.